groups and
Yeah.
where I could potentially see a lot of people that would benefit from. Yeah, so maybe those or the home ed groups, but those are all like sort of WhatsApp based, mostly.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I would approach that because, it's like sometimes in the WhatsApp groups, it's just meant to be about, the home ed or whatever.
The beauty about a WhatsApp group is that, like, in the WhatsApp group, you can literally get access to a whole list of leads.
But you don't want to be like the person that's stalking everyone.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Oh, you just happen to be on the same group.
But that's the thing. You can literally say that. Like, there's no rule that says that you can't go into a WhatsApp group, take a person's phone number, and send them a voice note saying, "Hey, I noticed that we're in the same WhatsApp group about the home ed stuff, and like I saw one of the comments you made, and it was genius." Or I was just wondering, how long you've been doing home ed for, and if you could help us out because I'm just getting started out on my journey. Like, I'd love to connect with you. There's so many different creative ways of which you can be approaching a person, but the main thing is you got to find out, first of all, where are your people, and then what can you do to approach? What will get the highest response? I think that's the main thing that you're looking for in the beginning when you approach. Is you just need to get a response. Like, you don't need to worry about the connection. You don't need to worry about like the longer conversation and the things that you'll talk about then, or what you'll do to them to eventually bring them into your community or whatever. All you need to worry about is, can I get a response? Like the other day, I was doing some action-based marketing myself, just getting back in the game. And I sent out like 50 messages, which were done in the space of like half an hour because I saw like a post of a person that had a lot of comments on there within my niche. But the issue is like on Instagram, when you send a message, people don't actually see it unless they follow with you first. And I noticed that nobody was following me if I was just sending a message to their message request. It kind of probably came across as spam and they just ignore it. So as much as it could have been a great message, right target audience, wasn't the best way to get a high response. So I changed things up, and instead of just sending them a message, I started to comment on their first post and on their profile. And because I was like giving the most creative, thoughtful message on their profile, like that response went from 0% to 100%. And everybody that got the actual comment was like, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Why not? And make that connection. So that's all I'm looking for. When you're designing a funnel, because this is what really this is. And the key thing about a funnel is, even in the word funnel, it has the word fun inside of it. And if your funnel isn't fun for you, it's a bad funnel for you. You got to make sure that it's a fun funnel, because then you'll just do it and you play it like it's a game. So, like with my funnel and any funnel, because when you think about a funnel, it's like you usually funnel liquid through something in order to get something out. And we all know as well, like I was talking about it on another call, like money is very, money is the same as water, right? It's that element. And that's why we say things like liquidity, currency, like pools, banks, like all these things are related towards water. And a funnel collects water. So the idea with your funnel is that you don't want to have any leaks within your funnel. Otherwise, the water won't be taken through and you can't collect any of this water, which is going to be eventually money, because you'll have a community that could be monetized as you're providing value, right? So how do you make a funnel work is you have to make sure that from beginning to the end, as you test it, every little part of the funnel that has a leak has been filled. That leak has been fixed. And then by the end of the funnel, you get to a point where it's like, it's optimized, perfect, it's running smoothly, the water's coming through, we put water in and water comes out. That's what I did with the funnel that we have for SPE. It's like, I had to figure out advertisements, an advertisement that would get a click. Then once I got a click, I was like, I need to figure out what can get a person's phone number and details. Then I had to figure out what could get a person's like address and things like that. Then I had to figure out what could actually close a person on a sale. And then after that, I was like, okay, the funnel's done. We've got something, it's complete. So this is what you're doing right now, is you're actually figuring out your funnel for your community.
Right.
So with the WhatsApp home ed groups, like just think in the beginning, like you've got a good place to start in terms of testing that particular audience. I think in the back of your mind, you already know it's probably a good place because you know people who are in those groups and things like that. And now you just need to go ahead, get some of those phone numbers and start making connections. Start seeing if you can get responses from people with a first message, and think if you, one of the things you want to do with a funnel as well is, if you want to be like an amateur in doing this, because there's a difference between being a pro and an amateur. And the difference is that amateurs don't really get paid. Pros do.
Yeah.
Now, what do amateurs do different than pros, or what do pros do different than amateurs? One of the things is amateurs don't really use a process of what we call plan, do, review. Okay, so an amateur will, for example, in the gym, they'll show up to the gym, they'll lift some weights, they'll feel like, oh yeah, I feel like I've done a good workout, and then they just leave. That's an amateur. But what a pro will do is a pro will go in with a spreadsheet. And this is how you know you're working with a pro, because this pro comes in with a spreadsheet and they track everything that they lifted, as well as follow a program, and then review how things went so that they can then come to the next workout with a program that they're going to follow, track, see how things went, follow that thing that they did, and then go to the next one. That's creating that discipline. So if you want to operate like a pro when you're doing this, then you want to be tracking as much as you possibly can, even though that might feel like, oh, it's going to take away from the fun. I guarantee you this, it will actually gamify it even more and make it more fun, because then you're playing points. It's actually a score that you're keeping. If there's no score, it's no fun. Like whenever I was playing sports, I would always want to play a game, because if we're just like hitting it and messing around, I can't actually see if I'm winning or not. And scientifically, this is a proven thing as well, that in order to enter what they call the flow state, you have to have a not just challenging activity that is enjoyable, but you also must have something that you can measure. So you can measure your improvements and how things are going within the thing. If you have those three metrics, you can enter what we call the flow state. And it's the saying which I've been teaching to all my salespeople as well, which is the more flow you have, the more money you make. Some people say the more fun you have, the more money you make. I believe the more flow you have, the more money you make. Because the flow state is the optimal experience of happiness that a person can enter. And in that flow state, a few things start to happen. One, time starts to completely shift in terms of your perception of what's happening. So instead of it feeling like it's only 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, actually feels like hours went by. Or it feels like only minutes went by and it was actually hours. Time distorts itself within the flow state. But as well as that, it's like you can have the mind that's completely shut off, and you're also in the body and just acting in a way where you are doing it effortlessly with ease. And it's, you can just, I can't even describe the flow state. It's something you have to experience, but I feel like almost me, when I'm doing these calls, like I can enter into a flow state of speaking and providing value, right? So that's what you want to aim for with your funnel. And one of the things that I was even going to track for myself as well was going to be, and I think I'm going to add this to my personal sprint, the actual state that I've been in on a daily basis. So in terms of what I'm measuring is like, how much of the flow state was I in that day on a scale of 1 to 10? And if I was a 2 that day, why? Is it because what I was doing wasn't that challenging? Is it because I wasn't enjoying it? Or was it because I couldn't actually measure what was going on? It's either going to be one of the three. And if I can find out what it is, the next day I can make a pivot and make sure that I'm having more fun, I'm enjoying myself more, I'm being more challenged or adequately challenged, and I'm in my flow. Because if there's one thing that I learned from last year, which was my most successful year in business, is that the majority of my success came from the time periods of which I was in the flow state. That was one of the biggest things that I learned from last year. So if rather than aiming for like, let me see if I can make this amount of money or whatever, I'm just aiming for how often can I enter into my flow state as much as possible within doing activities that can actually generate me profits and results.